Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Good morning, Bill.
Hey, Peter. Episode number 256. 256. The golden goose that lays the golden eggs in creative real estate. Lease-Options summarized.
All right. Golden goose.
Golden goose. So many folks had the dream to replace their current income with real estate, if only to take their time back. Possibly spending more precious moments with family, charities, even loved hobbies. They get introduced to others who have used this safe and high returning asset called real estate. Then decide this is perfect for their type of lifestyle they dream of, and then jump in. To only get wicked confused on which strategy best fits their available resources, time, education, and most of all, passion. This often singly confuses. I'll give that to you again. This often single confusion sends most into a tailspin and ends up without results, causing upset within their own minds, and not to mention those around the person trying to hit this goal of consistent, reliable income with few setbacks. Fret no more. This easy to absorb, healthy information podcast will be the exact compass to get you out of the deep, dark forest. Listen up while Bill and Pete share their knowledge and stories on using lease options to set you free once and for all, without capital, risk, and or a Yale or Harvard 6-year degreed education. Let's dig in right now.
All right. Hey, you know what I took away from all that?
What?
Fret no more and set you free.
No set you free.
Yeah, those two things. Fret no more, set you free. The rest was what? Explain that in a minute. But I got that part. Fret no more. Hey, Bill, I got one of my students who just graduated Harvard. Just graduated like last week. And believe me, folks, yeah, well, must be a doctor. But believe me, folks, she doesn't know nothing about real estate. Nothing, honey.
And you know what the sad thing is, Peter? And I just wrote this in another, because I've got a bunch of books I'm writing. I've got one I'm publishing this week, I think. Yeah. And I wrote this one of the books. It's like, the sad thing is these guys, and I know because I have a niece that's doing it, and I have some other relatives that have done it that are doctors. I mean, my sister's stepson is a pharmacist, and he went to school, I think, for 8 years. Mm-hmm. And he's all excited because I think he's making $1.50 a year or $1.75 a year, $175,000 a year. And I'm thinking, I think I've done that already this year, and it's only freaking May.
Yeah, but Bill, do this. Subtract all the money that it cost and all the years they spent that they weren't making a dime. Now we're like up to $500,000 behind the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Anyways,
somebody's got to do it. I'm glad someone is, but I don't know. That's not me. That's not you. And that's not you out there in rookie land.
Real estate entrepreneurs. All right, let's take care of some of the housekeeping stuff, because the last couple episodes, I don't remember to do this. So please, wherever you're listening to us or watching us, subscribe to the channel so you know when we're back live again, and you could jump in and check things out. Every Thursday morning, 9:30-ish, 9:15 to 9:30-ish Eastern Standard Time, we actually record this podcast and we live stream it to Flakebook and ZooTube. I love saying that. So you can actually go on either Facebook or YouTube and actually type in Flipping Houses for Rookies, find us, go on to the channel where we're actually live streaming. And if you have questions, type them into the comments and we will respond to you. So when we are talking to other people, that's where we're talking to them from. They're either on Facebook or they're on YouTube, and they're sending us messages. Lastly, there's a link within the description. That link takes you to a couple questions. Once you're done answering those couple questions, you can get a live one-on-one 45-minute interview with myself. It's really just, it's your triage. You know, that's a triage is when you go into a hospital and you're in the emergency room and you're ill or you're sick or, you know, you had a car accident or something like that. It's where they take you to assess you to see what needs to be done. So that's what that 45-minute interview is. It's kind of like a triage session. It is not a sales pitch, although many ask me about the coaching. So we end up talking about that towards the end of the call. But it's not, that's not what it is. It's just me giving back. It's karma. It's amazing how that works for me. And I keep continuing to do it. And until I get too much to do, which is damn close these days, because I run ragged, I'm going to keep doing it. Okay. All right. So also don't forget to like us. Don't forget to send us a review, anything like that. You can go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/podcast and it's all there. Okay. So Pete,
Yes,
here
sir.
we go. Imagine this. You somehow get interested in real estate investing. You do some research with books, podcasts, videos, possibly seminars, or online activity, you know, like videos or courses or something like that.
That's right.
Only to decide real estate is a perfect strategy for getting your life where you want it to be.
Oh, yeah.
In this strategy, you come to realize you can become free. It is actually possible. You can get your life back. This is actually possible. You can pay debt. This is actually possible. Help family. Give to charity. Do the hobbies you love because you now can fund them. And you have time to do them. In other words, you buy all in. As a strategist, you have a plan. But as a tactician, the one that has to do the work, you don't know where to start. And we talked about this before because most businesses start the other way around. Most businesses start with the tactician, you know, the guy, the plumber or the electrician or the doctor or the lawyer, whatever, the chiropractor, whatever it is. They have the tactician part down correct. They have the technology to be able to know what to do. The reason why they're starting their own business is probably because they left their other job or wherever they were making money because they felt like management didn't understand. That's a vast majority of why people move from one job to another. Unless, of course, they just quit one day and they're gone the next day, then that means they've done something they don't want anybody to catch them doing, and they just blew. But most people that give notices or are looking for advancement don't agree with management. They feel like they're not understood. Now, just to prove my point, Pete, all you got to do is turn on the TV and find the show Undercover Boss.
Yeah.
That's the exact phenomenon I'm talking about because the guy that's running the place knows nothing about what the guy on the bottom of the totem pole or the worker is doing. Mm-hmm. You know, you might have a guy that can sell millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of highway paving and have this huge company and have government contracts and all that kind of stuff. And he has no idea what the guy with the shovel in his hand is doing. He's
too many years removed. He might have been there one day, but it's a long time ago.
Right. And it's different, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So most businesses are started that way. They're the tactician first. Mm-hmm. They jump in, I'm going to do my own business and have no idea how to be a strategist. They have no idea how to strategize, look in the future, and plan for their life. except in real estate, it's backwards. We start as strategists, like, that's a great strategy. Oh my God, that works perfect for me. That's exactly what I want. And we have so many people in this industry that sell the dream. And it's not hard to sell the dream. And when I say sell the dream, I mean just introduce it to you, because all you got to do is look around, not very hard. And secretively, you will find people that have real estate and making a shit ton of money off of it.
Yeah. The buildings that you're looking at are owned by somebody. You look at an apartment building or an office building, and you think like some corporation owns it. People own that. People from other countries who live here, all kinds of people, not just rich old fat guys with lots of money. Just you wouldn't know. You'd be in Stop and Shop. That guy owns 3 apartments. That guy owns 2. They're all over the place, but you'd never suspect it.
More to the point, get in your car and go buy a pack of cigarettes or a bottle of beer 4 blocks from your house and look at every one of those properties is owned by somebody. Look at all those opportunities. They're all around you. All right. So enough with that. So the tactician does all the work, right? So you had this, so you are a real estate investor and you did it backwards. You had the strategy first. You figured out the strategy first. Now like, the rubber meets the road. It's like now you got to figure out the tactician part. Like, how do I do this? Mm-hmm. And this is like a deep sea fisherman that sees water everywhere. He sees a bunch of water and he knows there's fish in there, right? Yeah. But he doesn't have the proper tools to find the fish. So either he pokes and prods and drops a line here, drops a line there, hopes he catch something, right? Or he uses the proper tools and he finds the fish. Mm-hmm. You see, real estate is everywhere too, right? Yeah. And a lot of people don't have the proper tools to see these properties are either for sale or how to buy them or how to do it safely and how to do it so it won't sting them. Just like I said, go out your front door. I don't even care. I don't even care if you're in the middle of the country, Iowa, in the middle of a farm field. You go buy a pack of cigarettes or go to a store or whatever to get groceries. Every piece of property, every building you pass, all that land, that vacant land is all owned by someone. So you see a lot of real estate. So why can't you find a deal? Right? Kind of like a doctor. I mean, you go just about anywhere, especially nowadays with this pandemic recently, there are sick people everywhere. So why would a doctor suffer? There's sick people everywhere. Right?
Yeah. Well, doctors don't know anything about marketing or business. Lucky for them, when you're sick, you just go find one. But I've known doctors who were doing well, and I've known a few that were not doing well at all. That's like having a supermarket and going broke. I've seen that. How can you go broke? We eat 3 times a day. You got food. How do you do that? I've seen it though.
Right. So that's what my point is. That's a tactician running that business. Yeah. In those businesses, what happens is you have a bunch of individuals that are all bumping into one another. It's kind of like taking 20 painters and putting them in a room that's 20 by 20 and saying, paint this room. Everybody has their own idea of how they're going to paint the room. Until the strategist comes in, those are all tacticians. Until the strategist comes in and say, you paint this, you do that, you scrape this, you sand that, you sweep the floor, you turn the light on. Until you have that, it's not a team activity. Mm-hmm. And oh yeah, by the way, I just wrote this in an article the other day. The number one is the worst enemy in any business. One of anything is the worst thing in the world, especially marketing campaigns. One is dangerous. You should never have just one. You should always have more.
One anything, right?
One anything, yeah. Except wives. You can only have one wife.
Yeah, but don't you have
and that's dangerous too.
Don't you have 1.5?
I always say I got 2 because I got an ex-wife and I got a new wife. And we're going to the Robin Hood Fair this weekend with my grandson, and my wife and my ex-wife will be there, and we have a great time. All right, so not only does this fisherman not know where the fish are, but what kind of bait should he use? How do you attract the fish? So how do we attract deals? What bait do we use to attract deals? Right? This is what it's like. So many before you have made fortunes from real estate but aren't sure of the details. If you could just be a fly on the wall and see them do a few deals, you think you could figure it out. Oh, how many times if I had $1 for every time somebody told me that, if they could just watch me do a deal, they could figure it out. I wouldn't need to sell anything. I would be all set for life.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of people that tell me that. Right. However, this search to reverse engineering deals sends you down a consuming and often very, very expensive path that blows up more often than getting favorable results. We've seen it. I see it. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And never really getting to look under the hood of these fine-tuned, profitable machines that the pros build and run to get deals. How about I let you in on a secret that is in plain sight? Actually, it's the biggest secret in real estate in plain sight. It's called a lease option or a rent to own. It's the same thing. Lease option and rent to own is the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Right. So just because of the way we've been doing the last several podcasts and we're doing the 7 series, let's start off with, how about if I explain what it is?
Sure.
Okay.
That's a good place to start.
This amazing strategy is where you find a seller willing to let you make monthly payments until you can pay them off. And pay them off could mean that you made enough payments that they're paid in full, or it could just mean that you go 5 years and you have to refinance at that point, or find somebody with the money at that point, right? That's called a balloon, right?
Right.
So pay them off doesn't mean that you pay them 30 years. It could be 3 years. It could be 2 years. It could be 5 years. It just means that somebody went and got the money, usually our buyer. Okay, I'll explain that in a minute. Once you find yourself willing to do this, and you find a seller willing to do this, you draft common lease to own paperwork where you promise the seller within a predetermined amount of time, you'll pay for what you'll pay for the property and how much you're going to pay monthly. Right?
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you're going to sign in advance a predetermined document. So the option agreement is going to be how much you're paying and when you'll pay them by. And then the lease agreement is the agreement of the occupancy and how you're going to live there. Like you can't throw baby diapers down the toilet. You can't have a lion for a pet. You can't have an ammunition factory in the basement, that kind of stuff, right? It's all the rules of the occupancy. Right? So that's the lease. And then the option is the agreement that predetermines how much you're going to pay and by when, right?
Yeah.
Not only that, but you do all the maintenance and the repairs. You're promising them that you're going to do all the seller, all the maintenance and repairs, right?
Right. But do you actually have to do it? Because I don't want to do that, Bill. That's the part that, I wouldn't get into real estate. Do you have like clogged toilets, 2 o'clock in the morning, Christmas morning? I wouldn't want to do that.
Right. We're going to go over that.
All right.
It's good. Very true. It's very true. So basically you're leaving your seller with income payments, monthly payments, without the landlord obligations. And you're creating a mailbox turned into an ATM machine for your seller, because every month they get a check in the mailbox.
Yep.
Right. Then you go find a buyer to assign the price you negotiated. So you're not paying for any of this. You're assigning it to your buyer. Right. And you're going to assign the price. So whatever you agree on plus your profit. So that means the seller is paying your fees. Then the monthly payments that you promised to pay. and you're going to assign, like you said, the maintenance and the repairs to the buyer.
Mm-hmm.
So everything you're promising the seller, you're assigning that responsibility to your buyer, because the buyer is going to be the person that's going to live in the property. So it's actually like a sublease. So I'm leasing from you. I go find a buyer that's going to lease from me. So I'm making lease agreements with the seller, and then I sublease and assign everything to my buyer.
Right. Of course, the additional part that he's going to be buying the house. That's what the option is for. So he's not just renting, because a renter won't do those things. But he's thinking, oh, this is my place. I'm going to buy it. So he's thinking like an owner. So he doesn't mind mowing the lawn and taking care of it, because he really thinks it's going to be his. He's not going to walk away from it. So you have
the number one objection to your point, the number one objection I get is, how do I know that they're going to take care of it? How do I know that the buyer is going to take care of it? And my simple analogy is this: when you rent a car, are you going to change the oil? Are you going to wash it? Are you going to take really good care of it? Probably not. You buy that same car. Are you going to be different?
That's right.
Right? Are you going to change the oil? Are you going to fix the tires? Are you going to fix the brakes? There's a whole different, when you rent a car, you're just using it. You're just like, well, that's the owner's problem. I got to turn it back in. Oh, there's a noise on the brakes. You better fix it. Oh, the oil, you're not even going to pay attention to the oil change because it doesn't bother you. It doesn't even matter to you. You don't care. You're just driving it for like a week or 2 or 3 or whatever. You don't care. You're just using and abusing it. But if you own it, you're going to think in longer terms, right? You're not going to just think in the few days you're using it. You're going to think in longer term. So that's how our tenant buyers are. They're not just renting the house. They're buying it. They're going to have to pay the 200 or 100 or 50 or whatever the number is in the end. So they're going to want to take care of it. And you figure that out by vetting them correctly. Doing background searches and by doing the paperwork and making them jump through a bunch of hoops to figure out if they are the right person.
Right.
And if they truly intend, which 99.9% of them do intend to buy. Not all of them do that, but they do intend when they go in, and they do take care of it. I mean, I just got back a house myself just this week, and there was the house is in better shape than when I gave it to her. And I'm just gonna, in fact, I'm gonna go in and probably do not very much work, and I'm gonna just put it right back on the market and sell it again.
Great. So you got that one, huh?
Yeah.
You got it. Good for you.
Keys, yeah.
Right time to get it right now.
Yeah. So I want to clarify something, because this is very similar to episode 255, where we were talking about the slot deal. Right? Like, however, in a slot deal, we just find the seller, then the buyer, and match make them for a fee. Right? So in a slot deal, like in episode 255, which is a sandwich lease option transfer, all we're doing is matchmaking. We're finding the seller, we're finding the buyer, we're putting them together. The buyer pays the seller. They don't. We have nothing to do with it. So we make our fee, our $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is, from the deposit money in the deal. So in other words, we get paid the difference between what the buyer gives for a deposit and what we have to pay the seller in a slot deal. That's how we make our money, right? But here in the lease option transaction, we actually stay in the deal and make money. Now we make money monthly, and then we make money later, right? So we make money now with the deposit money. That's our profit. We collect money monthly, and there's a spread in there. That's our profit. And then later on, we sell the house and make our profit from the equity in the house at the end. So if you paid 100 and you sell for 120, you made 20 grand. Right? So we have 3 profit centers, which is what I call the trifecta. Right? This is the golden goose that lays the golden eggs. Right? And the reason why I say that is because if you work once to get the goose, right, or get the asset. So you work once to generate the asset in your portfolio. It just keeps producing and producing, just like the golden goose will keep laying the golden eggs.
Yeah.
It just keeps producing. You just make sure that the goose is fed and sheltered and you're good. Right?
Yeah.
It just keeps producing cash flow multiple times, which is where you're going to be able to fire your boss and actually become free. See, I don't remember which book it is. I think it was Cash Flow Quadrant from Kiyosaki.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about being rich, right? So often, because we're not taught about money in school. So often what happens is you think you need millions of dollars. You need all this money in the bank, right? No, he doesn't. He says that. This is where I learned this from Kiyosaki.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He says all you need is assets producing a little bit more than what you need. So if your bills are $4,000 a month, then have enough lease options paying you, we'll say $5,000 or $6,000 a month. So this way here, if somebody doesn't pay, you're not sweating it. You know, you always have a cushion in there and you have reserves.
Yep.
Right. Later on, I don't remember who wrote this. I'm not sure the author, but I found out the true way to be wealthy is to have a lot of people paying you.
Sounds
For
good.
something.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just purchased the Cash Flow Quadrant. I couldn't find my old copy, so I just grabbed one. So I'll probably be going through that. I'll see if I find that spot.
Yeah.
That
So just for
that.
a classic example, I'm going through right now. I have 3 apartment buildings. It was a apartment or multifamily houses. There was a 2-family, a 2-family, and a 3-family.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought them on a lease option. I paid $100 for all 3 of them.
Mm.
They have been producing. I mean, now lately it's been a problem, but because it's been 2.5, almost 3 years. They've been producing about $2,000 a month on that $100.
Mm.
Now I find out I can sell them, and there is literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity. Hundreds, not 1 or 2 either. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity for $100 investment.
Yeah.
So how many deals do our sellers need to do that one deal? Which is the reason why I formulated this group called the Deal Hunting Monthly Mastery Group. Like that was last night. It's the first Wednesday of every month. It's $97 a month, Pete, which is, I mean, I'm sorry. If you can't swing $97 a month, then you should not be listening to this podcast. You should just go away. You're just a pretender. You're bullshitting yourself. You shouldn't do that to you or the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind me. I don't care because I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it whether you're around or not. Okay. But for $97 a month, I actually every month, and I was talking to the guys last night, and I'm actually proud of myself. And that's hard to do for me because I'm not always proud of myself. I always think that I'm behind the 8 ball and I got more to do and I got more to learn and I got to catch up. I always think, you know that because you're around me all the time, right? So I'm proud of myself for this reason because we were talking about it last night on the call. I've been doing it since September of 2020. I've actually gone 9 months straight. Okay. 9 months with a brand new, out of the box thinking marketing strategy every month. In other words, there's 9 marketing campaigns that any real estate investor, creative real estate investor, could use to find a lease option that you pay $100 for to get what? 7 apartment buildings, 7 apartment doors that pay over $2,000 a month, and then 2.5 years or 3 years later sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars of profit. It's not because they aren't out there. There's plenty of houses out there. It's because you just don't know how to look for them. Kind of like the deep sea fisherman. He sees water, but he don't see the fish. Right? So I'm not here to preach that, but it's just my point is these deals are there. And how much education did I need to do a lease option? I mean, the apartment buildings were already leased. They were already leased. He already had tenants in them. All I had to do was take them over. Right?
Yeah, I remember that was a few years ago. Those are your first ones you did on a lease option for the multifamily, because we were talking about it back then. That was your first foray. And to me, what's weird to me is I've known people that say, "Oh, I got into real estate." "Oh, what'd you do?" "Oh, I bought a house and I'm renting it now." "So how'd you buy it?" "Well, I put 20,000 down." "Oh, and I got a mortgage." "Oh, okay. And how much you making?" "Oh, like 300 a month."
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute. So, I mean, the uneducated way is you just like call the realtor, call the bank, call the mafia, and spend a ton of money to get a teeny back. But this way is totally opposite. You put a teeny bit in and you get way more back out.
Which is the reason why I love this strategy so much, because the lease option strategy gives what I'm calling the trifecta. There's money now, money monthly, money later. Now, if you're holding the apartment buildings, there may not be money now because there's no deposit, but there is money monthly and there is money later. So that's why, in fact, I just wrote a book called Breaking the Real Estate Monopoly. Right? And it's actually a system. It's the first of its kind, I think, in the United States, an actual step-by-step system that we're going to standardize, where it's going to become the system to use for real estate, right? It's a standard system on what step to do next. And there's technically 6 steps. So it's a step-by-step. And if you go back to episode number 248, you can hear that. You can hear we explained the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
The step-by-step system. I mean, it was in its infantry stage. Infantry state. Is that right?
Infancy.
Thank you. Infantry is war, I think. So, anyways, the point is the infancy stage is back there. The one it was just a baby. So, the reason
that was really good what you did there, because everything in there we've been talking about for a long time. And it's like, well, Bill, when do I say that? And when do you do this step? You go, well, you'll know. When you're in the house, you can tell. But we really can't. And we need to be a little more sure when and what to do. And when you laid it out, I went like, damn, it all fits in the right place. It's just all the puzzle pieces just fell in. It's like, oh, God. And you have it figured out in sequence that you don't have to wonder too many things at once. You just wonder, what's my next little thing to do? And you can see what it is. You nailed it. I mean, I'm a study dude. I'm a teacher. And I buy things sometimes, technical things. I buy music equipment, electronic stuff, and the directions are horrid. They're horrid. The grammar isn't even right, because somebody in China or someplace, Pango is writing it, and he can't even understand the damn thing. So what you wrote in there, folks, go buy it. I don't even know what I've seen your preliminary stuff. I'm buying one. I am. I'm telling you.
The lesson here is to write it instructions in Pango.
Pango. Yeah, just terrible instructions. But you got it. It's just really all in the right sequence.
So reeling it back in, the reason why we use lease options is because, well, let's keep going, because there's no obligations, right? An option, as we spoke about in episode 255, an option has no obligations. And you use $100 or any kind of currency. You could use $1, $10. We use 100. Don't use more than 100.
No, I've done 20.
To
20
to procure the option agreement, which gives you the rights to go sell it without the obligations. Right. So what we're doing today is we're talking about, well, add a lease to that option agreement and make money in between.
Yeah.
Right. So you're gonna now pay attention to this. If the seller, all right, so let me back up here. I want to catch up where I am on my notes. If you use the rule of thumb I use, you'll soon see how I decide to do a slot deal or a rent-to-own deal or a lease option. Because I get that question, because they're the same transaction.
Yeah.
You're going to lease from the seller and you're going to lease to the buyer, which is called a sandwich lease option. That means you're in the middle. But so the slot deal, you don't stay in it and the lease option or the lease or the rent to own deal, you stay in it. So what's the difference? They're structured exactly the same way.
Yeah. Why would you get out if you could make more money?
Right.
So the answer is,
now pay attention to this. If the seller is willing to give me 15% worth of equity, which if you think about all the podcasts before this, that's the cost to sell, 15%. So if they use a realtor, it's going to cost them 12 to 15% to sell. So if you give them their full asking price, so if they're selling a $100,000 house and it's going to cost them $12,000 or $15,000 to sell, and you give them $85,000, you're paying full list for the house. You're not getting a discount. Because that's what they're going to get if they go to a regular closing.
Yeah, with all the fees and expenses and all this stuff.
How can they argue with you? You're giving them full asking price. That's why we say we'll give you top dollar.
Yeah.
Right. So if the seller is willing to give you 15% in equity or profit and 20 to 25% in cash flow, I'll stay in the deal.
So 25% of the rental amount, whatever that is, each month.
The cash flow.
Yeah. So it's a few $100, $300-$400 a month, $500, something decent.
And I've done it for less than 20 or 25%, but I like to use it as a gauge. So if I can get 15% worth of equity and 20 or 25% worth of cash flow every month, I'll stay in the deal and I'll manage the property. Which there's really not a lot of landlording here, because remember what I said? We're going to assign the buyer with all those tasks after it's all done. So they're not really buying the property as we spoke about. They're actually, they're not actually renting. They're actually buying. We're the intermediary bank while they're getting their credit fixed up and getting their loan. So we're going to give them 2 years to go fix whatever, right? Their colorful past, if you would. Okay. Whether it be, credit, or whether it be, student loans or paying debt, or
divorce.
Divorce, or maybe they just started a new business and need tax returns to be able to get a loan, whatever it is, right? It's not always just credit. So when explaining this to your seller, and this is vital, this seems so simple and casual when we talk about it, but this took me years to figure this out, right? So when you're explaining this to your seller, like a slot deal and a rent to own deal, and you're trying to explain, because it's the same transaction paperwork wise, right? I ask them to make a choice. I ask the seller to make a choice. Do they want to landlord it or not? Now, they don't know what I know. They don't know that I can assign the landlording fees, the landlording obligations and all that stuff to my buyer. They don't know that.
Yeah, but either way, he's either doing it or he's not doing it. Whether you do it or the buyer does it, it's no skin off his nose. He doesn't have to do it. Either way.
So if they say no, they don't want to do landlording, right? Most people don't. I tell them they need to give me 15% worth of equity and 20 or 25% worth of monthly profit to keep me interested in doing a good job for them. Right? Yeah. It's a perfect way to conversationally get a golden goose and some golden eggs month after month after month. So let's just play this out, because we only have a couple more minutes left. Let's just play this out. Seller wants top dollar, not willing to discount. You go through the cost to sell with them: 5%, 6% for the realtor, 3% for 3% for negotiating, 3% for maintenance, 3% for actual closing costs. Like lawyers and transfer taxes and all that stuff. That's 15%. You go through that and explain it to them. Okay. And if they're not going to use a realtor, they need to spend 5 or 6% in marketing. That's the reason why 88% of for sale by owners go to a realtor, because they never spend any money on marketing and they don't tell enough people the house is for sale. Right? Yeah. That's why they go to the realtor, because they haven't figured that out. Okay. So you tell them all of that, and you get their agreement that it's going to cost them that much money. So like I said, so if they think, so even if what I'll say is it's 12 to 15% for closing costs. But let's say you're really savvy and it's 10%. Let's say you're really good and you can get it done for 10%.
Yeah.
So that's $10,000 on a $100,000 house. That's $20,000 on a $200,000 house. I'll say to them, so if I pay you $90,000 or $180,000, would you sell me the house because you're getting top dollar? And they'll be like, yeah, good. Here's how it works. Right? Now, if they say, I'm not willing to do that, I want my 100 or I want my 200, you could still do a deal. That's called a slot deal. Give them the 100, go out and market it for 105 or 108 or 110, get your buyer to give you $5, $8, or $10,000 down, and they still owe the buyer. I'm sorry, the buyer still owns the seller the $100,000. So you make your 3,000, your 5,000, your 8,000, whatever the number is from the deposit, and you do all the paperwork between your buyer and your seller. Now, if they're willing to give me the 15% and sell to me for $85,000 or $180,000, I'm going to write two sets of documents. I'm going to write a lease option with my seller, and then I'm going to write a separate lease option with my buyer because I don't want them to see what I paid. I don't want each other to see what I paid. But in a slot deal, you don't care. You're just assigning the actual agreement from your seller to your buyer because you don't care. You're transparent. I went a little quick there. Did you get all that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard it a few times, but yeah.
Yeah. Right. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
But if you want more details, you got the video on our site. They can go look at more details of numbers and.
Yeah, go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. Right on the front page is a pretty girl holding up money, and to the left of her is you can opt in there, and there's a course it's a free course that you can see all these deals. Okay, so the reason why I say to do this is because you put up $100 or $10 or $20 or whatever you put up. I hope no more than 100, and you get all these benefits. So let's talk about that. So we're at the front door now of the benefits. So what are they?
Yeah.
So for the seller, the benefits are these. There's no selling fees. The buyer's paying them. Right? The seller can move quickly because this could happen literally in weeks. I've seen it happen in days, but it can happen in weeks. No more than 30 days. Okay. The seller knows exactly what they're getting, so there's no guessing, right? So if they have a job transfer or they have mortgage payments they're paying or whatever, they know exactly what's going on because you could be very specific of when things start and when things stop. All the paperwork is going to clarify that. So it takes all the confusion and the guessing out of it, right?
Yeah, you can't do that with a realtor. If you get a realtor, this can take 1, 2, 3, 4 months to sell, then another month and a half to close on it. And meantime, he's supposed to be in Ontario like 2 months ago.
Right. And there's a lot of hurdles and barriers and obstacles that could prevent it from not happening. So if you decide to move on with your life, you could have this albatross around your neck and pull you back into your old life when you're living in your new life. And people don't like that. So sellers get top dollar, which I just explained to you, right? They continue to get their tax deductions because the deed didn't leave their name. So I always say that there's two ways to profit from real estate, right? Which is the equity, buy low and sell high, and cash flow. Technically, there's 4 ways to get profit from real estate. I don't talk about them because I don't use them in my calculations, and I just hope if they happen, hooray. If they don't, I don't care because I didn't figure on them.
Yeah.
So the 4 ways of making money on real estate are appreciation, depreciation, equity, and cash flow. So what happens here is those other 2 cash flows or profit centers kick in because you're not paying for the property anymore. So your tenant buyer, us, is paying for the property. We're responsible. So you cut all your liabilities from this property. All you're getting is money. You're becoming the bank. So now the other 2 profit centers kick in for the seller because the appreciation and depreciation work because the dynamics of the deal and the way we set it up.
Yep.
Okay. So they're gonna continue to make those profits. They get higher amounts of buyers to choose from. Like when you put a house on the market, there is going to be some, tire kickers, but not as many as most people would like. Right. For us, when we put an average house up for sale on a lease option, we get between 100 and 130 or 40 responses to our ads. That's just one ad for 1 week. Okay. We get 100 to 140 responses to an ad. We get 20 or 30 people through the house to get 1 to 5 potential buyers or offers. Right. So those are the numbers. You put a house on for sale by owner on Zillow or on any one of those sites, you might get 100 to 125 people to look at the ad. I promise you're not going to get 20 or 30 people through the house to look at it. Maybe in higher times, like sellers markets. But I promise you, just go look at history. Seller markets are a lot shorter than buyer markets. Seller markets are when the seller has all the power to negotiate and to walk away. Because there's an abundance of buyers. So they're like, you don't want to do what I want? To hell with you. I'll go find another one that will.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. The buyer's market is, you don't want to do what I want, Mr. Landlord or Mr. Seller? To hell with you. I'm going to walk away. There's plenty of other houses on the market. Right. So it's usually the former is less than the latter. Right. So it's usually buyer market 2 or 3 times more than it is a seller's market. Okay. Just look at history and you'll see that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the last one is so anyways, the point that I'm making is that you have a higher chance of getting buyers, which takes the neediness right out of it. So you're negotiating, the seller's negotiating is a lot better. It's a lot smoother. Things go better because you're not needy about it, because you have multiple buyers. And it doesn't make a difference what kind of market it is. A rent-to-own buyers are there's 10 or 50 or 100, I don't even know, probably 100 to 1. 100 buyers to 1 seller that's willing to do that. I mean, the ratio is pretty big, right?
Well, the number you usually say is if you have 100 people looking for houses, 87% of that, or 87 people won't qualify for the mortgage. They can't get it. Something's wrong with the credit, something. They can't do it. That's the people looking for houses, not just sitting in their home looking. So it's 87 out of 100 can't. So those people would contact us.
81%.
81%.
Yeah, 81%.
That's a lot.
Yeah, right. So, but my point is that it takes the scarcity mentality away and all that stuff. So the last one is obviously it's a much quicker sale and it's much smoother. Okay. Then on the other hand, the real estate entrepreneur gets all these benefits, right? No loans needed for capital. No major repairs, because we usually do these with pretty houses. No risk except your $10 or $100 deposit. And like I explained in podcast number 255, which is the part about options, there's no obligation to purchase if we don't want to. So there's literally no risk. So why would you not do these transactions? You can't screw this up. It's unbreakable. It's impossible to do anything wrong and it costs you anything. Other than you might piss somebody off. And if you can't handle that, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if you're that much in fear and you're that weak and you're worried about somebody pissing somebody off, then you shouldn't be in this business anyways. You need a little thicker skin. But that's the only thing that you could do in this transaction. You can't break it. It's unbreakable. You can't do anything wrong. Nothing. It's impossible. Okay. And even if you did, here's the magic, right? It's easy to assign this to other investors or other buyers. So if you get this transaction and you can't find a buyer, just promote it. To go to your local RIA or send me a support ticket or find somebody. Well, even somebody that isn't an investor, your sister, your cousin, the barber, the guy packing the grocery bags at the grocery store. There's somebody that will want this transaction because you found it. They just don't know that they exist until you tell them about it. So this is impossible to mess it up. Even when it gets a little hairy, just assign it. It's so easy to assign. It's a 1-page document to assign it. Just go on Google and Google it. I mean, what are you afraid of? I can't say that enough, right? It's and here's number 5. It's a great way to learn with very little education. It's just a great way. You're renting from the seller, subleasing to a buyer. End of story. If you go online, like I said, go to eforms.com, you can find documents. Here's another one. Go to Legal Shield. I just signed up for it. Legal Shield, $99 a month. You have them do the documents for you or review. You go on to eForms, get the documents, and you want to make them specific to your area. Pay Legal Shield $99 a month, and you have them review the documents to make sure, because the Legal Shield, the lawyers in your state, and you make sure they do it. Or you buy my documents. My documents all work. My documents you're not going to get from Legal Shield, or you're not going to get from eForms. I promise you that. I'm going to make sure you're completely safe and you're doing well, because I've used them myself and coaching clients. I've been to court with them. They are ironclad. Okay, but so you don't need to do that your first couple of deals. You don't need to do that for the first couple of deals.
Yeah, so you got Legal Shield. Are they going to fill out the forms for you? Did you say that?
No, I don't think so. No, they'll review them though.
Yeah.
No, I'll fill them out. They'll review them.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about that later, and I'm going to offer it to everybody. We have a special price and all that. We're going to offer it to whoever wants it. You can go get it. Right. So number 6, there's more benefits for the entrepreneur. We're 50 minutes in, so we're going to end off. Okay. It can be done part-time. You can keep making money however you're making money. You can do this part-time. A night here, a weekend day there. It's not hard. You're going to go meet sellers and you're going to meet buyers. And if you automate it, you don't even need to do half of that. Right? It's not hard, man. It's like I'm going to go to my grave preaching this until I'm blue in the face, because it's not hard. It's you. It's what's ever between your ears that is stopping you. Just go try it. You cannot get hurt. You can't get sued. You can't lose your life savings. Nothing can happen to you if you do this deal, except get embarrassed because somebody's pissed off or you do a deal, you say something wrong. So what? That's your education. Move on. Get over it. Apologize. I'm sorry. I'm new. I didn't know.
Yeah, but even then, I swear to God, I've done a few, working with landlords or sellers. If you are honestly trying to do your best, they don't really get mad at you. That's right. That's right. Someone only really gets mad at anybody because they think you're a jerk and you did it on purpose. You don't even care. Right. But when you're really trying, do you yell at like a kid who spills the milk? Maybe you do, but don't do that either. He's trying, So when you really do this honestly, and it doesn't work out, they understand. Like the house is overpriced or the neighborhood is terrible. There's just something's really horrible, and they know it's not your fault. So I've never even seen that happen. It doesn't happen to me, at least. So just be a decent person. Try to actually help them. And if you're afraid to do this, you don't have to do it. All you have to do is try step 1 and see what happens. That's what I did. I just tried step 1 and like, wait a minute, why did that work already? Let me try step 2. That worked. You don't have to believe me. Just test it for yourself. Yeah.
This is so huge, Pete. This is so huge, and I could go on for another hour, which we probably will in another podcast. This is so huge. This is the reason why I created the Reluctant Buyer Kit. Because this neediness thing, and injecting neediness into the deal. There's a big difference between neediness and wanting. It's a big difference.
Yeah.
That this neediness thing. So I created a Reluctant Buyer Kit where you can actually go out and practice on sellers. Right. So And in the end, it's what we're going to call it?
What?
The real estate practice. Doctors do it, right? They practice, right? Lawyers practice, right?
Yeah, music. I'm sitting here with all my instruments around me, and as you were saying this, it made me think of you can practice on your own as a musician, and half the people are probably played an instrument, and then you have rehearsals with the band in school or your own band, and you practice. You don't just show up at a gig and like, geez, I hope this works out. Some people do, but they're dumb. You practice, and you rehearse, you have a dress rehearsal, you warm up, you do a sound check, and then you get lucky and you get actually the gig and you get paid. But you got to practice first, and you got to have a few rehearsals.
Yeah,
try it.
John West says they might yell at me. I got news for you, Johnny. Your mommy yelled at you and you survived. You're all right. Your sister and brother yelled at you. You survived. You're all right. And I know your wife yells at you. So you'll be just fine. Don't worry about it. All right, let's finish off here. So how about this one, Pete?
Mm-hmm.
When you do what I'm talking about, another benefit to you is you build a buyer's list, because every time you sell a house or you rent to own a house, you're going to have, like I said, you're going to have 20 or 30 people, 20 or 30 people to go through the house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's 20 or 30 people that you can introduce your next house to.
Yep.
Now we use software called REI Reply, which is $50 a month. And we have a whole thing on that, a whole course on that and how to use it the right way, because they're wholesalers. He said, we want all the answers to test and then forget the answers on test day. That's exactly right.
That's why you have to practice and rehearse, because it's not really, I'm an educator. It's not just learn something and then try to do it. You have to practice it. You have to work with it. So don't try to buy something. Just go practice first.
All right, come on. We've said enough of this. We got to keep moving. So perfect way to build a buyer's list. So you can build a buyer's list. So when you get another property, you can do an email blast and maybe not even have to market the next property if you accumulate those names. And I'm going to tell you, this is a whole nother podcast, but imagine if you can sit in front of your seller and tell them, I have 75, I have 100, I have 200, I have 30 people that are interested in buying this house right now.
Mm.
How much credibility does that give you? It doesn't matter if you have 14 heads and 13 arms and flew in on a spaceship. They're going to sign up with you. You tell them you got 30 people ready to buy their house, and all you have to do is email them. The greed glands are going to swell so much you're not going to be able to get out of the room. Right? You tell your seller that. So this is the best way in the world to get started in real estate, is you get one lease option deal, one slot deal, and you start marketing for buyers, and you keep those names in some sort of use. There's so many free eye contact, or what is the other one? There's free ones. All these weird names. Just go get an email service and just put them in an email service. Right, instant contact. I can't remember the name of the. I think it's Rabbit or something. I forgot. Anyways, just Google free email services and you'll find them. Okay, so save the names. Right. This is an excellent way to test your abilities of where you're weak and where your strengths are. Because here's what happens: until you actually go out and talk to sellers, which is what the Reluctant Buyer Kit is all about. You're trying to learn everything, right? Oh, yes, Desiree, thank you. MailChimp, that's exactly what I'm thinking. The email service is called MailChimp. Thank you, Desiree. MailChimp is for free. You don't need to have anything. Just collect your identities in MailChimp. It does amazing stuff. I used it for many years. Okay, thank you, Desiree. So here's the thing. This is an excellent way to find your weaknesses. See, what happens is when people are studying, like, I want to be an auto mechanic, and they go spend $40,000 for a toolbox just in case they need a tool, when really all they needed was 18 wrenches or 6 wrenches or 5 tools, right? Mm-hmm. It's because they haven't done the job yet. They don't know exactly what tools they need. So isn't it better to go do the job first? Go try to change the battery or the tire or the water pump, right? And know what tools you need, so when you go back and do it again, you have the proper tools. no reason to go buy the whole Snap-on truck or the Craftsman bin at the local Sears store. You don't need all those tools. Find out what tools you do need and which ones you don't. And that's going to get you a much stealthier, much affordable education, because you're going to buy the tools that you are weak with, not the ones you're strong with. Mm-hmm. And everybody has strengths and weaknesses. So when you're out doing these deals that are risk-free without any obligation to buy, you're going to find out where you're good and where you're bad and where you need some help. Go get some education there, either from me or from somebody else. And only buy the tools that you need. Okay. Mm-hmm. Lastly, which is probably the most vital thing that will perk up most ears. It's not for me, but it's probably the most vital thing. Lastly, it will give you experience to tell your private lender about later on when you find that hot deal that you need money for. Oh, I've done 4 transactions already. I've done 6 transactions already. I've done 12 transactions already. Right? And when you go to your lender, you can talk to them about your deals, about what you did and how you did it. Because now they're your stories and they're your experience and they're your lessons that you learned. Right? Mm-hmm. And when you tell these stories, you want to make sure that each story has a change in it. Like I started out with, oh my God, I didn't have any money. And then I did this and I did that and I did that. And I ended up with this much money. Right? Those are how you want to tell your private lenders those stories. Right? And it will build credibility. Not to mention, there's probably people in your environment that are probably family, your boss, friends, cousins, neighbors, that they have money. And you know that they would invest in you if they had confidence in you, but they don't have confidence in you. That's why they're not lending you money. Yeah. So when they start seeing you do these transactions, oh, I just closed on another house. Oh, I just closed on another house. I just closed on another house. Pretty soon they're going to be like, what are you doing? And they start asking. Right? So it's beautiful for that. Right? Mm-hmm. Desiree says they'll be impressed with the fact that you made money with no money. That's right. If you can't make money, that's a good point, Desiree. If you can't make money without money, you'll have trouble making money with money, especially when it's theirs. And that's what they want to do. They want to make sure their little soldiers are safe when they let them into your camp. All right. This puts us at the end of the podcast. And it kicks off podcast number 257. Which is going to be talking about rehab retail deals and raising money for those deals. So this is going to put us into the next podcast where we're talking about, raising money and building private lenders and, because when we get down to the rehab retail deal, which I think is number 5 on my list, that's where we have to start worrying about money. Now realize, no, retail. No, it's not our next one. Subject to is our next one.
Yeah. Yes.
Getting the deed. Right.
Yep.
But we still need to get money for those. So how are we going to do that? Right. So realize we just went through 3 transactions, went through a slot deal, option deal, lease option deal, and we have yet to need money, credit, have no risk. The 3 out of the 7 deals that you could do, 3 out of 7 of my deals you could do without a long education, without all you got to do is have the balls to go out there and find a seller and find a buyer and do the paperwork. That's it. You're not buying and selling real estate with these 3 deals. You're buying and selling the documents. So go find a seller, learn how to do the documents, go find a buyer, learn how to do the documents, and you're done. You don't even get the keys on these properties. The seller gives them to the buyer, and you're done. Most of the time, you don't even get the keys for them. You're buying and selling the option agreements. You're buying and selling the leases, not the property. So how could you get in trouble? Yeah. Okay. I've said my piece. We're way over time here. Don't forget to go leave us a review. Please subscribe, whatever channel you're on. Go into the description, click on the link, do my survey. That's how I know what to do on these podcasts. It's our report card. I would love to hear your feedback.
Welcome Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie. Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.